whole purpose of the data management policy, because in the afternoon session, first session, we discussed about the data management and how effectively we can implement the data management in various research projects. As a by force, we need a policy so that the institute can ask the scientist, according to the policy, these are the things you need to do. You need to share the data into the data repository. Otherwise, this will happen. This kind of policy we need to have. Otherwise, things will not move in a smoother way. This kind of force by the institute. The main purpose is to promote and support the curation, the quality check, and preservation in the for the long run preservation, and as, of course, for the data sharing. And this applies to all the scientists, irrespective of which program, which project area they are on. And this policy has to be updated time to time. Otherwise, there is no validity about the policy. According to the situation, it has to be updated. And for this, we are keeping a time frame of 1 year. Each year, we'll have a review kind of thing. And if there is any updates need to be updated and reviewed, then that will be done, and we'll implement into that. Of course, we need a proper data management plan for each project. If you don't plan about the data management, data curation, data sharing, and data preservation at the initial phase of any of the project, we cannot spend time and money. So unless you plan in the initial phase, you won't get the money for that activities. If you don't have the budget, if you have not allocated the time for that activity, we cannot ask anybody, because when you ask somebody, we need to spend some time, of course, some budget, at least for the curation part, or even kind of modern tool. If you want to spend something on modern tool, you need to buy something, buy in. And of course, awareness for all these. Okay, I'm skipping this because of time limitation. Okay, I'm going to the last part. Maintaining the data integrity. Whatever the data we are keeping, we are proposing for the open data repository, that should be a complete. Otherwise, of course, there are no use. And even one should not alter the data which is there in the repository. As a secondary data, someone can take this data and they can do further research and they can republish the data, but the original data should not be altered. And of course, whatever data is available, that should be having the metadata. Otherwise, nobody can understand what the data is, and even searching is also difficult. If you have the metadata specific, what is this, who are the scientists involved into that, and what are the area the particular data is, then we can have kind of search criteria. And in the morning, we have discussed a little bit about the ownership and stewardship. And all the policy statement has to include these points. Otherwise, there should be a defined roles and responsibility of each and individual, so that as a data management unit, what are the duties I need to do for effective implementation of the policy? What are the conditions I need to face as a scientist? What he has to do for effective data management, at least for his project level. So there should be a ownership. The data owner is the institute. As an ICRISAT, ICRISAT is the institute, owner for all the data coming out of the research project. And data stewardship, assume that there is a project under which there are multiple scientists are generating the data or collecting the data. Then who is the stewardship? There should be a single contact point for any of the activity, whether it is data management or some other thing. There should be a single point of contact, and even for the data related activities, there should be a single point of contact, so that whatever the questions or problems or challenges that's coming out of the whole process, someone can have contact with the data management unit, or maybe for the curation part, they can contact the statistician, or maybe if there is any kind of disputes in between. If we work with multiple partners, as mentioned in the morning session, Dr. Dileep, there should be understanding MOA kind of thing, so that what are the policies of the particular partner institute, we need to obey for that. If there's no, they have to obey. That's kind of understanding when we go with a project with the partners institutes. So there should be a kind of initial discussion, and that should be as a part of the MOU. Otherwise, we'll end up with kind of disputes. And when we look at the second point, which data should be shared and when should be shared, that deviate from institute to institute. Maybe as an ICR institute, if there is a policy that saying that what are the data coming out of the research, when it should be open to the public. There are two things. You have seen the VDSA, Village Dynamics, farmer data. So there are multiple stages in the data collection. They are going to the field, they are collecting the data, seasonal data. First season, they collect the data, and for the next season, Rabi and Kharif, they go to the field and they collect the data. So once after completion of 2 seasons, then the data is available for the curation part. That means for the 2 seasons, assume that 12 months is taking just to collect the data. And at least we need some time for the curation and the validation and confirmation from the project management. Then only it should be available to the data management. For that, we need sufficient time. Otherwise, if you are in hurry, we'll definitely will get lesser quality data. To avoid that, we are keeping some timeline so that we'll get a quality data, and we are giving sufficient time to the project management to do all these data management activities. For us, for the ICRISAT, we are keeping 12 months as a time period considering the social science data collection. That is maximum limit. If you are ready with the data, you can even give to the data repository within 6 months, 3 months, 12 months. There is no time. But we are keeping a cap 24 months as a maximum. Within that, the data should be available within the data repository. And again, if the data management unit or the statistician, biometric unit getting the data for the quality check or for the publishing at the end of the 24th month, then there is a problem. So there should be sufficient time for the quality check. And even what are the data we are getting out of the scientific outcome, we need to see and we need to convert that into a standard metadata format or data format, so that what are the data platforms or application that has to understand the format. Many of the times, not sometimes, many of the times, we need to convert the data into the system understandable format. For that, at least we need sufficient time. And for that quality check, the statistician needs sufficient time. Okay, so to avoid that, we are mentioning this point. Immediate availability in the inventory. So as soon as one season data is over, data collection is over, that has to be in that inventory, so that the statistician, biometric unit and the data management unit will look into that as soon as it is available, even though we are not publishing in the data repository. But even to have sufficient time for the curation and the management platform, we need to mention the inventory so that we know that these are all the data sets here. They are coming after 12 months or 16 months or 14 months. And what is the responsibility of the data sharing? Is it a data sharing is the responsibility of the respective scientist or respective project management or the data management unit as a whole, or maybe the institute? Who is the responsible? That depends. As a data management unit at ICRISAT, we are facilitating the project scientists or project to make their data available in the data repository. We are not involving their day-to-day activity. So what are the data is outcome, coming out of the research project, there should be a process as discussed in the morning. It has to go to the biometric unit for the quality check. Then it comes to the data management unit. For this, data management unit is facilitating the repository platforms. But scientists, they know what are the data and what the data has to be come to the data management platform. He has to decide. So he is or the project management is the right to decide about the data sharing. And who are the data owner? If it is solely of sole property of ICRISAT, then obviously ICRISAT is the data owner. What if it is a joint project between partners? So then both. Of course, that depends on the MOU even. Okay, I mean, we discussed this part. Okay, the last point is kind of interesting. What in case of non-availability of suitable repository? Because we have certain platforms or systems to accommodate the data for the open data concept. You have seen the breeding data. There's different platforms. You have seen VDSA just now. They have a different. So VDSA or social science data cannot fit into the breeding, and as well as breeding cannot fit into the social science data. So each subject area or each domain have different properties and different requirements and different platforms altogether. Assume that there another set of domain or data sets is coming which doesn't fit into this or this. We need to develop a different one, or at least we need to just keep a temporary repository kind of thing in the institute data repository. That's what we have database for the institute data repository. Anything can be shared through that. And again, if you keep on loading with the research data into a repository, there is endless. It's keep on growing. It crosses the million, trillion, billion. So to effective management, after 10 years of this 10 years old data can be shifted to other backup mechanism, so that always recent 10 years data will be available in the data repository. If somebody wants to see old data, 20 years data, they can go to another repository. That is the best mechanism, but till now we have not reached that mark, but still we are thinking to do similar thing. And these are all kind of definitions, but we don't look into these definitions now because of the time limitations. But definitely we'll see what is the dispute resolution. Sometimes because of the project in between the partners, and sometimes we work with the commercial companies, sometimes with the NAS partners, sometimes with other companies. So there are chances of disputes because who is the owner? If partners are generating the data and it is giving to the ICRISAT as a part of the project, there should be a common understanding. If there is any kind of dispute, how to resolve that? There should be some mechanism. So in ICRISAT, we made a setup so that if there is a dispute about the project management will approach to the IP department and data management unit. It won't resolve within this. It will escalate to the higher authorities. And we discussed with scientists, and this is the flow of data curation, and before it loads into the data repository. And these are all certain responsibilities of and roles and responsibility of each and every department and scientist. And for effective implementation of policy, we need a guideline that gives details what to do, what not to do, and who has to do what kind of things. And these are the kind of data formats we expect in any of the research projects. And certain things we need to include into the project management plan at the initial phase, not at the end. These are all kind of points we need to mention with respect to the data management in any of the project plan. And of course, we need to ensure that metadata is with our data, otherwise it will not fit into the repository. In the morning, we have discussed these points. We will not go into that. So, this is the end. If you have any questions about the policy and guidelines, we can discuss now or maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have the practical sessions, hands-on sessions on Dataverse, how to install, how to set up institutional data repository, so that the same thing you can learn and you can implement at your end. Yes, Dr. Gurumurthy. Hmm.
Using the data, we publish some article or something like that, or generate new data from that. So how we can acknowledge
So give the
data?
citation. And you mentioned.
Like you say, in our journals, like in most of the research journals, we have some references, very specific kind of references. One. And the second thing is quality data, like there are certain journals given the ratings, like we have national and international, like Nature and all, they got a very, because it's a very authentic data. There are other journals, we have data, but their grade is very low. So how we can distinguish in this very open data, such kind of things? These two.
For the first question, you can acknowledge, you can give the citation to the data authors in any of your publication, I mean, for the data you are referring to. And the second thing is for the Nature, that kind of, I mean, they're now asking the raw data, the data which is, I mean, used for the publications. So any, I mean, that gives a good credit. Even for the other journals, if they are not in good rating, so that means they need to uh, concentrate more on this kind of mechanism, so that what are the publications journals they are publishing in their thing. So they need to ensure that the quality should be there. They need to have a kind of quality check.
How we make such a distinction in this open data?
I didn't get you the last one.
Open access data, we have open access data.
See, we have the open access repository, so we ensure that the quality data is into the repository. If some other partner institute they are maintaining certain data repository, there is their responsibility to ensure that quality data is coming to the repositories.
How come another? A client will know that, like we have very clear guidelines from the international journals and some local journals. Like
Yeah, because of that we rely mostly on kind of, I mean, good rating journals. I mean, even you get good citation and good thing, I mean, when we publish into that kind of journals.
Dr. Gurmurthy, it's not only about the rating of the journals. What here we are following, certain policies and the implementation guidelines we are following here. When we are looking at these aspects, one is we are looking at the institutional repositories, how we are maintaining that one. That's at an institutional level. And the other one, when you are talking about the platforms, that may be the journal platforms, otherwise sharing are taking these data sets from one institutional repositories into their existing work, otherwise maybe quoting somewhere. So we are nothing to do with the rating of the journals. We respect all the journals, okay? And also we see with the similar value, but the impact factor that varies. And when that comes to the open access data, our main aim is how we are making these validated data sets available to the global community. For that one, we set up our guidelines. That's an open access policy, what we say. But even there are globally accepted guidelines or the principles there, like Creative Commons license, to quote an example. Creative Commons license, if you see, there is a symbol and that itself notifies, like maybe you are following that one. You need to give the due credit to that particular author. It's also similar thing. For example, the simple metaphor, if we can take that one, if you use a Wikipedia, okay, you are not allowed to post unless you sign into that particular Wikipedia platform, okay. When you write something, there are several iterations you can see, okay. You are writing on an existing document. If you click on an existing document, you can see it's Gurumurthy has written. The next, if Dileepkumar is contributing to that one, there is an iteration again. If you click on that one, the iteration you can see. Okay, your piece has been further developed based on the existing piece. It's the similar thing. We are talking about the data. It's the similar thing. You are using these data sets and you are giving the citation or the due credit to the owner. That's where the ownership comes into the picture. And these iterations are there in the repository. But when that comes to the institutional repository, there are two different ways. One is the raw data which can be shared among the scientists or the fraternity in that particular institute. That's not available to the global community. Whatever coming from the institute, those are validated data sets. We are ensuring only validated data sets will go to the respective individuals or the internet recipients. I'm sure you might have given the workflow, data management unit, and the biometrics. The biometrics ensures the validation of these data sets. And data management unit is a coordination unit. Though the unit actually comes under our program, we don't take the stewardship of the scientist. We don't take the ownership. Still we say this data is coming from this particular scientist. That's how we can distinguish. But in a simple one-word answer, we can say we need to follow certain guidelines. That's a Creative Commons. It's clearly defined. If you need to use the data sets from some other sources, how do you need to cite that one? That's very well written. Otherwise, if we need to follow the open access guidelines, that's clearly written. So there are such standards or the guidelines there we need to follow. It's nothing to do with the quality of the journals or the impact factors when that comes to the open access guidelines. We are not talking about that one.
Just I want to just throw some light on equip systems. Like ICRISAT has got 5 mandatory crops. Similarly, in Indian National Agriculture Research System, we have got EQUIP, All India Coordinated Research Projects, for nearly 28 crops. So most of the crops fit into these 5 groups, what ICRISAT actually doing research. So every year, so the EQUIP system, or EQUIP, so they in turn get the collaboration or network with the state agriculture universities. So they're getting, the ICR is getting information across the country, and every year they're conducting workshops. So they're getting the information, they're pulling the data on crop wise. So why can't we actually really exploit the data generated by the different state agriculture universities across the country? So all crop growing areas of the particular crop of that particular equip. So we can have a like a good collaboration with the ICR system, so that we can get the data generated across the country into this database system. That may be very useful, I think.
Yeah, you please take it.
I have a limited understanding on the EQUIP system, but my understanding is, for example, if a beautiful research or a successful research is available in a country, and why we are following these All India Coordinated Research Projects, because we do have several agroecological zones. So how that better fits into that particular agroecological zone? We are trying the similar kind of research experiment and understanding this is working in the same way or in a different way. And essentially we produce the data also as part of that activity. But what purpose we are going to use that one, that's where we are going to look at that one. And similar kind of mechanism that can be followed. When that comes to at the ICR level, certainly the ICR sees the value of that kind of data sets or the results. Here though they are duplicating that one, but at the same time they are trying to understand how this kind of research results play a predominant role in that particular condition. That's what, because agriculture, as I mentioned, it's not 2 + 2 = 4, because we are trying to understand these agroecological zones and how these factors play a role. The localization, we are bringing that one. When the data part comes into the picture, see, why not we can develop that one? Always there is a way out, but we need to see why we are doing this one, what is the purpose, and where we will be heading. So when that comes to the collaboration between ICR and ICRISAT, there is an ongoing collaboration that's not only on the knowledge sharing and innovation platforms. We do work closely with the ICR institutes, and the point of contact is NAM, and also the several other institutes we are closely working with that one. Nowhere like we are not denying. And even in our new CRP mode, CGIAR Research Partners Program, CRP programs, ICR is a big partner organization. Very first time last year, we organized an ICRISAT ICR collaborative activities initiative. And even the other research programs also we have undertaken. And there are all the research programs, they have the collaborative projects. But it's always like we don't develop these platforms for the sake of developing platforms. But at the same time, what is the need? Why do we need to do that one? whether we can, otherwise we are loading this data, like you can get enormous, it's otherwise we ended up having one more Google kind of platform or something, but how we are bringing that one and what purpose we are doing these things. Would you like to add anything, Madison? Chukka is available, and feel free to discuss with him if you have any further questions and we need to have much clarity. Madison,
So now we have reached to the concluding part of the day. That's a feedback on today's proceedings and sessions and all that. So we encourage and value your feedback on whatever we have done today. All the sessions, including the inauguration and everything, since morning. So any
we can
feedback?
go one by one. Right?
Yeah, or one is maybe on general, like how was the pace and the level of information shared with you and planning and all that. So if you have to add anything, any comments or feedback, feel free to convey your point.
The idea of having this feedback session is, this is not the first time we are organizing the same program, but there is a difference last time what we have organized or this year what we have formulated. The feedback loops are very, very important to further fine-tune the program. And even though we have a set program, at the same time we see how best we can further enhance that one and orient that one according to the needs of the participants. That's the main objective. We divided that one into 3 different categories as we discussed this morning. So is it good? Like, are we going in a good way? Otherwise, you have a program schedule. Otherwise, do we need to bring any kind of changes that better fits into the areas what you are focusing at your particular institute? Otherwise, do we need to include any other sessions? Otherwise, do you need more details on any kind of activity that you have heard today? And probably we may need to go into a greater detail to a specific group. This kind of information, we can go session by session. Otherwise, we can take a generic feedback from all of you.
Yeah, just not for this time, from next time onwards. So at least you can ask well in advance that from each participant. So at least for 2 to 3 minutes presentation, just regarding how and what are the developments they can do in their own institutes after go back from this training program, or what are the things what they're in their mind, so that actually they can come here and they can present, so that it will be useful to everybody. Like,
yeah, that's there already. That's a valid point, but that's we have included, like even in the first, like we asked like expectations from the program as an ice-breaking session. And though that's not from the individual participants, but whoever covering.
If it is individual, so it will be more fixing more responsibility. So it will be more serious.
That's one way we are doing that.
I think the point you are making is if before arriving you can prepare yourself for this type of input. That's what you are trying to tell us.
Yeah.
I know it's a good point. Maybe in a future program we'll try and include that. So that before you arrive, these questions will be put to participant and they can arrive with their maybe small presentation, 2-3 minutes and all that. But we'll see. Like every program has its own uniqueness. So in a future program, how it can be accommodated. But it's a good suggestion.
It will be a tough time for us, but still.
In what point it's a tough time?
It means preparation and really should think seriously about it and have to make good slides.
Yes. See, the one point, like what we are trying to do, all these presentations you will be getting in a drive, otherwise in a CD, that's one thing. At the same time, 2 or 3 individuals will get a chance to provide the feedback at the end of that one. That's a kind of presentation. But certainly we make sure like we would involve a point to receive the expectations from the participants. And also we make it very clear in the invitation letter itself, what are the areas are we going to cover in this particular training. It's not a generic invitation letter, hey, you come and participate in this training program for 4 days, okay? These are the areas we are going to cover in this training program. We do have our selection process. At the same time, even we give a choice to the participant, whether that comes under their area or not. It's a competitive selection process. And we don't invite anybody for the sake of inviting participants and who can contribute and going to work with us and see some kind of value in the training program and take these learnings and integrate into their institutional activity. That's why if you see in the letter itself, we have mentioned you are a valued partner. So that's one way it defines that one. And in the first paragraph, that clearly defines the course curriculum for this capacity building training program covers open data and knowledge solutions, innovations in capacity building, massive open online courses. We are not deviating from that one, am I right?
I'll add something as Dilip has mentioned, you will get either pen drive or DVD having soft copy of all the sessions. Then we are recording it. It's streamed live and some of the participants from our locations in Africa are watching it. So this video recording will be placed on a KSIConnect. In fact, tomorrow the first 3 hours is on something on that. So all that recording, the presentation and even abstract or some write-up on session and all that will be placed on KSIConnect, which you can access now or even later on also after 6 months and all that, because it will be available on an institutional repository. So it answers you. Everything will be available. It's recorded. Yeah. But the entry point will be the KSIConnect. So and your question also, whatever your question is, everything is recorded.
So that's why we are requesting every time you turn on your mics, make sure like you are turning on your mic while asking the question. So what we started doing from last year, I think from 2012 itself. So for many of our activities, you might see the proceedings for the seminars and the workshops, okay, that may take 2 months and 3 months. By the time you may forget about the event, what you have attended, okay. Then what we started bringing electronic proceedings, which you will get it on your email when you reach to your home, just in a day or 2 days time. Okay, immediately you can see if Dr. Patro have asked a question. It's almost like a virtual event. You can see it on the website. According to this program schedule, you can see all the presentations, discussions and everything, except the hands-on activity. That we can't do that one, that's a boring, okay? And when you are asking like, are you uploading on the YouTube, exactly you are going to see the process. Because when we are developing these virtual knowledge series platform, we are not exhausting our server space. These videos occupies a lot of place. At the same time, why not we can keep it on an open platform, social media platform, where all the people are aware, because YouTube is already a standard platform. We upload onto the YouTube. At the same time, we point the YouTube to our KSIConnect, okay? And you can see all the agriculture repository here and the proceedings also coming from there. Nothing from Bagalkot. You guys came up with a great interest and nominated 5 people. No questions, no suggestions, no comments.
ICRISAT started a program on Bhuchetana. So the object of the Bhuchetana is that will tell about the soil types in the region, local area. So based on that soil types, so we are talking about the more on organic farming. So based on the soil types, so what will be the availability of NPK in the soil? So if it is in data form, so they can use based on that data they can use fertilizers or chemicals. So I want some portal to explain about the soil types within the region or within the district.
I'm sure like you might have seen an atlas, but before that one, let me clarify the Bhuchetana, it's not only the soil types. The idea of the Bhuchetana program, Bhuchetana means that's a soil rejuvenation.
Yes.
The Chetana is a Sanskrit word, that's a rejuvenation. What we are trying in that particular program, what we believe, a healthy person do perform very well. In the similar way, the healthy soils produce more, okay? And you identify the deficiencies in the soil and you correct the deficiencies. Okay, Bhuchetana as part of the program, they come up with an atlas. And is Chukka here? Yes. Okay, would you be able to show them? At the same time, even what we are doing, we are making that atlas also available in our phablet one. What are the deficient areas? That's a static one. At the same time, a former level also, now we are trying to bring out that one. You will get to know more details when you are getting an orientation on the ICT for D training. The entire, that's even the atlas is available, that's a static booklet. At the same time, it's also available on the phablet also. On the web platform also it's available. Probably you may get those links. We will make sure like he will see that one and receives that information.
And if needed, we may bring contact person from Bhuj Chetna project with whom you can interact during one of the lunch time or something. So you can interact extensively with them.
Yeah, just wanted to, it's been a fairly interesting day. So when we had a mix like early, the first icebreaker was really good because we were really forced to get to know at least, if not 14, at least 9 or 10 of them. And I felt the only thing was that the afternoon session after a very good meal was too much, presentation. So we had to fight ourselves to keep ourselves, follow what people were saying. So a little bit of activity or some sort of, I don't know what other activity we are looking for toward tomorrow. Something like that, some activity mode or something like that would have actually made it a little more lively, but again the life came back towards the end. But the first, the peak hour was little slow.
So tomorrow's session planning is more interactive.
Yeah, I'm just
There are
saying
some
today's
practicals,
session, had there been
sessions
little more interactive in the afternoon, just after
Correct.
lunch,
Correct.
I think most people would have been little more alive.
So the only point, just let me make it here. The hands-on comes only after you learn something, am I right? This morning we have given an orientation, what we are doing. It's more like an orientation rather than you really jump onto some activities. As I mentioned about the outline of the program, you first learned about these data management platforms. And at the same time, I have mentioned there is a hands-on activity that's full afternoon. Unless and until you know how to develop these data repositories, otherwise what's the benefits of these things, you can't identify what session you need to go.
Where you people are coming from, I'm just saying from the participant's point of view, some little, an icebreaker could have actually made a difference. I'm not just saying here, just a small icebreaker for like, an hour after our lunch would have actually brought some more life back to us. That's all.
It's a very valid point. We thought through that one. And from tomorrow onwards, you see immediate after lunch, the activities are more like taking you to some places and having an interaction. Today, in fact, the original schedule was to start in the morning. But at the same time, inaugural, we push it to the afternoon because we need to accommodate other important people also, have an opportunity to hear from them. So based on the availability, this is an arrangement we made. Otherwise, the program starts with an inaugural session. Inaugural session never comes in the middle. I mean, yeah, but it's a valid point. Yeah, it's a valid point. Yeah. We agree it's a valid point, and you can see tomorrow onwards the program is designed in the same way. It's like we have rescheduled some of these things as per the availability.
Today tea break is immediately after 1 hour of the lunch. That should be somewhere in
Anything else? Okay, super. So the first day, it's a good feedback, and overall, like once we reach to close of the event, and we would like to hear more from you people, how we can further fine tune that one. At the same time, like you're not, I completely agree, because you're not the students, and you are already into the professionals. You need to have that kind of relaxation, some kind of stretching your legs and the hands. That's an important thing. And that's how we designed, and tomorrow onwards you can see that kind of change. And thank you again, and hope you have had a productive day, and let's enjoy your evening. And we have a beautiful campus. You can take a walk, and whoever not staying in the campus, make sure like you receive your transportation. If you need any assistance or help, please do not hesitate to reach to the office here. Okay, all the people, they will help you and make sure you will stay more comfortable and educative and joyful. Okay.